like that?
Right. That's right. I like that. I like that after yesterday. Should we jump right into the pie chart of praise here?
Oh, I think we're on a roll. Why not?
A Monday staple.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
Now on Mackey and Judd,
You wanted better charts that you could see the fine print on.
the pie chart of praise.
You should be singing his praises.
Go ahead, Judd Zolgad. 4 wins out of 5. A game against the lowly Jaguars, in which the Vikings are 9-point favorites out of the gate. Chance to pull within, chance to tie Arizona next week.
Yes, a very, by my standards, small pie chart. Only 4 pieces of pie coming out of the Thanksgiving holiday.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
80% of this pie goes to one guy, Kirk Cousins.
Wow.
He deserves it. Look, final drive. Show me something, right? Like we've been saying that. Show us something. 6 of 7, 75 yards, a quick score, basically, a touchdown pass, no timeouts to use. That's just impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth quarter, 12 of 15, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's impressive. Kirk Cousins, you get 80% of the pie. It's incredible. 10% goes to, and I think that this is very fair, receivers not named Adam Thielen, who was, of course, on the COVID-19 list. B.C. Johnson, Justin Jefferson, Kyle Rudolph, and Chad Beebe each caught 7 passes on Sunday in this game. Again, that's 4 different guys who caught 7 passes. They get 10%.
Did you guys see the Adam Thielen videos that his wife was sending on social media?
That's pretty hilarious.
He was watching the game like any Vikings fan would with his kids, just jumping up and down on the touchdowns, the game-winning field goal. He freaks out.
It was great. It was funny.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I'm just taking some photos of
Some selfies.
Myself, number 1 Kirk fan here for the social medias. Don't mind me. Keep going, Judd.
Okay, 5% goes to the Vikings defense for the stand that they put on against Carolina after Dex's guy, BB, muffed that punt at the Vikings 9. They could have put the dagger in right there. They did not. That's partially on Teddy and the offense as well on Carolina. But you know what? The Vikings defense gets 5%, a small piece of pie.
Okay.
That leaves 5% of a chunk of pie. It has to, pie chart of praise, has to go to the team that helped the Vikings immensely, among other things, by with about 2:16 left in this game, calling back-to-back pass plays for Teddy that stopped the clock, which helped the Vikings immensely in their final drive. Matt Rule and the Carolina Panthers. You get 5% simply because what are you doing? Why are you not trying to run the football and run clock? You are stopping the clock for a team that basically deserved to be punished. The Vikings did because the last Zim challenge to me made no sense, right? So you've got them up against it as far as controlling the clock and stopping it, and you help them. So 5% goes to Matt Rule and the Panthers for being just the latest in a long line of coaches to mismanage the clock. 5% to the Vikings defense, 10% to the receiving core of Johnson, Jefferson, Rudolph, and Beebe that caught 7 passes apiece. They get 10%, and Kirk Cousins gets 80% of the pie.
I was trying to do the math on just how much time the Panthers' terrible clock management and play calling cost them and gave to the Vikings.
Awful.
And now, the Vikings did get down inside the red zone with like a minute to go. I mean, it was like bang, 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 and they were down inside the red zone pretty quickly. So time wasn't a huge factor. In fact, you could argue the Vikings might have like slowed things down a little bit if they knew how quickly Kirk was going to cook.
You don't do that to your guy, Kirk. You let Kirk score. Favre should go slow. Kirk should cook quickly.
But they had one of the incomplete passes was just before the 2-minute warning, and so it wouldn't have been a full 40 seconds off. It would have been like 20 seconds before the 2-minute warning. But then they had one under the 2-minute warning on that 3rd down and 13. Why would you not? In that situation, the Vikings have no timeouts.
Right. Why
not just hand it off, take your medicine, kick a field goal? Like, you're not going to convert a 3rd and 13 anyways. So just like, and even the pass was short of the sticks. Like,
just run the clock.
Just run it and get it down to 120, no timeouts, and it makes life tougher unless you have one of Pro Football Focus's top 5 quarterbacks.
You got one piece of pie, don't you? You got one piece of pie.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
100%.
I've got 4.
Oh, wow.
I've got 4.
Oh, you're not really the bigger Kirk fan as I thought you were.
Well, just stick with me here, okay? 30% to the right arm of Kirk Cousins, okay? For overcoming the team's imperfections yesterday. This is what we've been talking about all season. At least you guys have. I knew it was in him the whole time. This is what you guys have been criticizing him for.
You and Julie.
The whole season. Yep. That things aren't perfect things happen in the NFL. Guys get hurt. Adam Thielen's out. Yep. There's going to be a muffed punt here. There's going to be a defensive touchdown over there. This stuff happens in the NFL, and the best quarterbacks, oftentimes the highest paid quarterbacks, overcome these things to win games. And Kirk was given the ball with 1:50 left, despite all the crap that happened in that game. Listen, you have a chance to make up for it by just hitting like 6 passes down the field, spread that ball around. And he did. So Kirk Cousins, 30% of my pie chart of praise to him. 15% to the Carolina Panthers. I'm not going to go too deep because Judd nailed all of it. They were incapable of moving the ball for long stretches in this game. And credit to the Vikings defense, but also like, what are you doing, Panthers? Like, why are you not just running the ball in some of those situations? They definitely gave the Vikings a clear opening to steal that game in the end. 5% of my pie chart. So this brings us to 50%. Goes to Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer for resisting the urge to re-sign Teddy Bridgewater all those years ago.
Oh, wow. Shots fired.
That's right.
Oh, boy, the producer studio's on fire. Oh, my God,
Monday.
I didn't see this coming.
5 days off.
Heel turn by Mackey.
Now, listen, all right. So
CM Punk.
I still love me some Teddy. He's a leader. He's a great guy.
No.
But I loved me some Teddy more when he was on a rookie contract.
Yeah.
More than the $20 million he's making right now. Wow. He was awful in that game yesterday. He missed 2 wide open touchdown passes. I know Declan's going to sit here and say, but what about the last pass? And that was a dime. And it set the Panthers up for a potential game-winning field goal. But he held onto the ball too long. He missed wide open touchdowns. And I can't imagine if he was nervous playing the Vikings in an empty stadium, what would have happened if they had 70,000 people in that stadium?
6 picks.
It would have been bad. Although he doesn't make the reckless throw enough to tally up 6 picks.
Right.
He will hold on to it, which is also something he did often yesterday. And 50% of my pie chart of praise, all right? Much in the same way, gentlemen.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
That I attacked pecan pie every day over this Thanksgiving weekend and feel like an absolute blob.
Hey, look, oh, boy. Ooh.
I am taking 50% of the pie for myself for being a master motivator of Kirk Cousins before the game, okay?
This is beautiful. This is exactly what I would have done.
2 hours before kickoff.
Self-serving as can be, but I love it.
I sent a closed circuit tweet to Kirk Cousins reminding him of his duties as a highly paid franchise quarterback. If you want to be a true franchise quarterback, someone who's capable of winning a Super Bowl, you need to put the team on your back in the final 4 minutes of games and steal victories more often than he has. It's in you, Kirk. We saw it yesterday. We saw it against the Broncos. And so I tweeted facts. I said, when the Vikings are behind by 1 score or tied, so a chance to win the game, early in the fourth quarter or overtime, so prior to the 4-minute mark, Kirk's passer rating as a Viking over 3 years is 117.2, 8th in the NFL, early in the fourth quarter. But the job isn't over early in the fourth quarter. Oftentimes the game goes back and forth.
Stop the count.
Late in the fourth quarter or overtime, so under 4 minutes in his Vikings career, Kirk's passer rating is a paltry 53.5 heading into yesterday's game, 43rd in the NFL. Now, multiple quarterbacks have passer ratings over 100 in these situations, including non-obvious guys like Ryan Tannehill, Ryan Fitzmagic. Matt Ryan is great in these situations, believe it or not. And yesterday, damn it, Kirk Cousins rose up, checked all of those boxes, and led the Vikings to a victory under 4 minutes, under 2 minutes, with no timeouts. And I'd like to think that he was scrolling through Twitter 2 hours before that game took place and saw
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
just the motivation that he needed.
I love it.
50% to moi for being the master straw that stirs the Vikings cocktail.
A genius move of pointing out a stat and then taking credit when the player goes against the stat. I absolutely. And by the way, I think you're right. I think he saw it and he's like, I'll show that Mackey. I will show
The Rock
him.
knows how you feel about pie.
And thus was born a quarterback who is destined for Canton now because of one man's willingness on a Sunday to set aside his mashed potatoes and his mimosa. To put it
I don't
aside,
think Kirk eats mashed potatoes.
No,
I don't
I'm
think
talking
he
about
makes them.
no.
Oh,
I'm,
me.
no,
Oh,
I'm
me.
talking about you.
Oh, yeah.
You put no. Kirk did nothing here.
I'm more of a stuffing guy.
You
but yeah.
put your morning stuffing and mimosa aside for only a moment to go to a stat site that would motivate Kirk Cousins. You did. You know what you did? You did what Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman and many before them could not do. You made Kirk a primetime player.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Declan, what's your pie chart of praise?
All right.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
It's honestly, it's pretty similar to both of your guys'. I'll start from the top, work
It's
my
Teddy.
way down.
100%.
3 pieces
I miss
of
him.
pie. No Teddy. No
miss
Teddy.
him. I miss
Teddy does
him.
not make my pie. Teddy made my tears already happen. So we're just gonna go with pie, okay?
I love how Declan was actively rooting for Teddy Bridgewater. in
That's
that
great.
game.
Yes.
He
I
told
had
me
to.
on Friday, and I it was not a bit.
No, there was no bit
It's
there.
hilarious.
All right, Kirk Cousins, 80% of the pie. You get 80% of this pie. He was amazing in the fourth quarter for the Vikings. Keep in mind, Minnesota had no business winning this football game. They had 2 strip sacks. They muffed a punt. Everything was going wrong for them. And when the water got hot, Kirk Cousins rose up 12 of 15 in the fourth quarter, $136, 2 touchdowns, 144 rating. As we said, the man's heading to Canton. We're going to the Super Bowl. Here you go, Kirk. Congratulations. 80% of the pie to you, my friend. I will also give 15% of this pie to Gary Kubiak because Dalvin Cook was not working. Adam Thielen was out. They figured out a way to spread the wealth around. The offense still was able to hum in that last 2 minutes. Kubiak deserves some praise for that. I really think he does. So 15% of the pie to Gary Kubiak. And the final piece, 5% of this pie, goes to a Panthers player. Because if it wasn't for him, the Vikings don't win this game. The kicker, Joey Sly, missing that boot. And that's a long kick, okay? I mean, that wasn't a gimme kick or a pooch kick by any means.
He's got the tattoo sleeve, too.
But the 5% of this pie, he does deserve it because Teddy Bridgewater threw a dime. Looked like the Panthers were going to steal it, and he pushed a I mean, it wasn't even close. That thing was
He said
basically
his
in the
foot
locker
got
room.
stuck in the turf.
Oh, well,
His
darn
cleat
it.
got stuck.
Your one job to do.
He missed 2 kicks, too, to your point.
Can
So
you imagine? Like
he missed 2.
You have one job. Just don't trip over
My
yourself.
foot got stuck,
Kick
dude.
the ball, dude.
My foot got stuck.
So Joey Sly gets 5%
All right.
of this pie. So my pie chart of praise goes 80% Kirk Cousins, 15% Gary Kubiak, 5% to the Panthers kicker for gifting the Vikings a win in this
The
pie
Rock
chart of praise.
knows how you feel about
I just got
pie.
a thought. I believe that it's destined now that when Kirk does go into the hall, his presenter is Phil Mackey.
Listen, I already have the speech written.
I think that you should be, I think you have to be, because you're the guy that got him to turn the corner.
I had the speech written just when,
Hi, Kirky McKirkerson.
Kirkers.
listen, just when everyone thought that was a wrap on Kirk Cousins as the Vikings franchise quarterback. Down 20 points to the vaunted Denver Broncos, recent Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos last year.
Yeah, with that.
He brings the Vikings all the way back from down
I
20.
love your hat. It's like the press. It's like the old school press credential in the fedora.
That's right.
It's just Kirk's number 1.
Yesterday, a vaunted Panthers team. Panthers also a former Super Bowl appearing team
Yeah,
at one
it's
point.
true.
Like
They have been in a Super Bowl
15 years ago. No, they went with Cam. Like,
Yeah.
no, they lost
They
to the
lost to
Broncos.
to Denver.
That's right. Same Super Bowl.
I think they've been twice now.
So what a day for Kirk yesterday.
It's all good now.
It's all good.
It's all good.
Crazy League.
Is
You like that?
I mean, listen, here's the thing, okay?
Like that.
The NFC, every team, I mean, the Saints are probably the most complete team, but now they're literally running Wildcat with a backup quarterback, and Drew Brees has 27 broken ribs. So Drew Brees is going to have to come back at some point before the end of the year and get back into the flow. It's possible he's just going to be rusty and old. So I wouldn't necessarily put the Saints on this untouchable pedestal, even if Brees comes back. The Rams have looked like maybe they're the best team in the NFC. They lost to the Niners for the second time. Now the Niners have had a ton of injuries and stuff, and
Jared Goff's very up and down.
correct. So that's
the problem.
That's a gettable Rams team.
Yeah.
The Seahawks, as the Vikings experience firsthand, if you just don't give Russell Wilson the ball with a minute to go, 94 yards, you can beat the Seahawks defense up and down. I mean, you're going to run into the Chiefs at some point if you try to go all the way. But if you're talking about just the NFC playoffs, go get it. Like what at this point, all sarcasm aside, not that there's been any so far on this show. Okay. Mind you. All right. Just want to be clear about that. the path is there for the Vikings. The Vikings just have to pass either Arizona or Tampa.
Right.
Either one of those teams.
Right.
They play, so Tampa gets a bye. They play Tampa, a chance to even things up with Tampa. Arizona's schedule is pretty brutal. They play the Rams twice.
They had the Giants on there.
That's right. The Giants have won 3 straight games. So at this point,
They lead the division.
now that you've come all this way and you're probably going to, if you beat the Jaguars, you're going to be 500 again. Go get it. Like, go make a run. Like, this is, I think my biggest message out of yesterday's win and the run that they've gone on is it's okay to hold your team to a high standard. And if the Vikings with Kirk Cousins and Mike Zimmer and veterans up and down this team, and there's young guys too, but there's some Hall of Fame caliber guys running around here, like Vikings Hall of Fame at least. Harrison Smith, Eric Kendricks. It's an up and down NFC. Go get it at this point. Like, why shouldn't we hold them to the standard of, if you want to play like this for a month and a half stretch?
Because because there's a very good chance that the majority of teams in this conference, including the Vikings, don't have the ability to be consistent enough to do that. Like, I agree with what you're saying, but I guess my question is this one. Who's going to show up here? And it's Jacksonville, okay? You're playing Jacksonville next. They've lost 10 consecutive games. They just fired their GM. They are 1-10. But are you going to get the team that you got in this fourth quarter yesterday? Are you going to get the team that you got early in the third when they gave up consecutive plays from scrimmage offensively, 14 points? Are you going to get the team that played against Dallas, which was horrific? Are you going to get the team that played in Green Bay, which was pretty good? So I guess my question is, I think the team that's going to emerge from this conference is not going to necessarily be the best team, like personnel-wise. I think it's going to be the team that can find consistency. And if you watch teams in this conference so far, aside from what the Saints were probably doing earlier, I don't think you've seen it. And that's the thing that is completely maddening. Like, who is Kirk? Like, is Kirk the guy? Kirk in the fourth quarter yesterday was really damn good. All jokes aside, it's like, oh, wow. And against Dallas, he was good. But the team itself against the Cowboys was awful. And like, defensively, if Carolina doesn't make the mistakes that Carolina made, right? Can you still pull that game out and not have made the mistakes that so like, I've got week to week here. And I guess it's fun in a sick, twisted sort of way. Week to week, I've got so many questions about what can you replicate and why does it look so tough at times when a lot of the teams that you're playing now really aren't that good.
But this is the beauty of the NFL. The beauty of the NFL to me is sort of in the messiness. I don't think you're going to go back to an age, and I don't even know if there ever was an age where there's just like 10 like perfectly operating teams. Like, I think the NFL's always been kind of messy, right. And a lot of it's because the quarterback market has gotten to the point in a salary cap league where all these quarterbacks are making like 10 to 20% of a team's salary cap. And so it's harder to put together top talent across the board because you can only really afford to have like 5 top talented guys. And then you're just sort of taking shots on young players and rookies and right. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what the Vikings are doing right now. And that they've got highly paid Anthony Barr, Kirk Cousins, Adam Thielen, and a couple other guys. And it's like, all right, let's take a flyer on 15 rookies in the draft and let's put a bunch of rookie cornerbacks out there.
Right.
And so it's going to look imperfect. And that's why it's even more important that when you have a quarterback that's making 10, 15, in some cases, even more percentage of your salary cap, they have to bail you out from the imperfections. And that is what we have been saying on this show the entire year. It's like we get hammered for it. Yesterday on Ventline, we actually had someone come in at the end. Highly recommend you go listen. It's 90 minutes, a lot of great takes from fans. It's the most interactive show in Minnesota sports. And he was poking us on our Kirk Cousins opinions. So when we talk about high quarterback standards, we're talking about exactly what Kirk did at the end of that game yesterday. There's going to be defensive touchdowns. There's going to be muffed punts. There's going to be injured starters all over the field sometimes. This happens to every team in the NFL. Look around. And quarterbacks are bailing those teams out because that's their job. And it's almost like when we hold Kirk to this standard of, why isn't he good late in games? Why is he this? And it's like, you guys are being too hard on him. No, we're not. It's the most important, influential position in all of sports. Now, what the guy at the end of Ventline said yesterday is, well, if we all agree Kirk sort of is who he is, and he's going to do this like once or twice a year maybe, and he's never going to be a top 5 guy who can do it, time and time again against the best teams in the NFL, then that's more of a Rick Spielman criticism for keeping him in that spot at that price tag.
Right.
And I'll have that conversation too. But I guess my question off yesterday's game is your opinion of Kirk Cousins different if he's taking a step forward in these categories, late in games, overcome the crap that happens in the first, 3.5 quarters?
I need to see. So, the way he played against Dallas and what he did in the fourth quarter on Sunday was impressive. Okay. But I have bought a ticket to this film before, and I've seen it before. I saw it last year. 4 games in, they're not playing well, right? Offense is not playing well. Kirk is scuffling and struggling. Diggs goes nuts, skips a couple days of practices or work. What happens? They come back and play the Giants, and Kirk goes on a Kirk run. So what I need to see now is I'm not willing to talk about if he has turned a corner until I see this now consistently for an extended period of time. And I will change my tune completely the first time that Kirk fails to lead a comeback, and I say, that's really surprising that he failed.
Yeah.
So
like Pat Mahomes.
Yeah. So
it's shocking if he doesn't complete.
But if we ever get to a show where we come in on a Monday and sit down and the Vikings got the ball with 1:50 left and Kirk failed, and we're all like, wow, that never happens really. Kirk failed. That's when I will tell you I have had an aha football moment. I'm shocked. So, look, it was impressive. It's fine. But when you're paid as much as Kirk is, and this all comes back to that, like this all comes back to his contract. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I have become a converted Kirk guy until that's the norm. Which I think is fair.
And I don't think it's ever going to become like the Tom Brady in his prime norm or the Pat Mahomes norm. Like that's not ever going to happen. I think what we're talking about here is just do it more often than one fourth quarter comeback in your Vikings career. And I get that the defense has given away a couple of those too. But here's the crazy thing. And this is where if you're the Vikings and you're looking at the road ahead, like you have a chance to finish 9-7, to get into the playoffs, and to maybe make something happen if you can win games like that. Because when you get into the playoffs, what happens is you don't get to stick to your formula of run the ball, play action, take a 10-0 lead, and lean on the opponent, and then you can tee off with your young defense. Like what's more likely to happen when you play great teams? This might happen against the Buccaneers in 2 weeks. It might happen at home in a trap game against the Jaguars. You fall behind by 14. Oh, crap. That wasn't supposed to happen. But what do? Okay. It's those types of games where crap happens. You start off slow. You get strip sacked. You throw a dumb interception. Something happens. And now you're down 14-3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which happens all the time in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk has to be able to say, all right, well, we're going to block that out. And I'm just going to go find Justin Jefferson about 6 times in the second half. And we're gonna work this thing down the field, right? Just like he did at the end of the game yesterday. They were down by 2 scores, and he was able to. And there's a big difference, by the way, between a 3 or 4 games under 500 Panthers team that's in rebuild mode without its best offensive weapon in Christian McCaffrey, and some of the teams the Vikings are going to have to do this against, Tampa, and Seattle again, and
the playoffs. If you get to that point, the problem is this, and it's not all Kirk. The problem is. Last year, the Saints win is impressive, right? Kirk makes the late throws. Kirk looks great. But the problem then becomes, as you potentially progress in the playoffs, you play tougher and tougher teams. Mm-hmm. And the Vikings issue that I can't see this team overcoming is in the San Francisco game last year, they got their butts kicked completely, like from Kirk on down. And so I guess my question is this. If you're playing a team that is a very solid team, do you have enough defensively as well? And my thought process right now is no. Now, could you get there eventually, 2021 or 22? Absolutely. But yeah, I do think it's a starting point of the fan base, the coaching staff, and everybody in the Vikings room has to have some type of faith that if they are trailing late and the game is within reach, that Kirk gives you a chance